Her family sold the obese princess as a slave until the Alpha King smelled her. Thunder rolled outside even though the sky was clear. The old priest frowned. The queen turned her face away, already tired. From the beginning, she was different. She grew fast, wider than the other royal children, softer in shape. While her cousins learned to dance and smile for nobles, she learned how to stay quiet. Servants sighed when dressing her. Tutors lost patience. The mirrors in the palace halls became her enemies. She was royal by blood, yet never treated like one. Her family never said cruel words out loud. They did not need to. Silence did the work for them. At feasts, she was placed at the far end of the table. During festivals, she watched from balconies while others were praised. When visitors came, she was told she was unwell and kept out of sight. She learned early that love was given only to those who pleased the eye. At night, she would sit near the window of her chamber, looking down at the city lights, wondering what it would feel like to walk freely among people who did not know her name or title. She dreamed of being unseen, and yet chosen. But dreams were dangerous for girls like her. The kingdom began to fail slowly, like a candle losing oil. Crops died, trade roads closed, enemies stirred beyond the borders. Her father, the king, grew thin with worry. Her brothers spoke of war. Her mother prayed harder and smiled less. And then came the visitors. They arrived in dark cloaks, their voices low and careful. They spoke of debts, of protection, of bargains that could not be written on paper. They spoke of the north, of lands ruled not by men, but by beasts wearing crowns. Of alpha kings who followed old laws older than stone. The princess was not invited to those meetings. She found out the truth on a cold morning when 2 guards came to her room instead of a maid. "Pack only what you can carry," one said, not meeting her eyes. "Where am I going?" she asked softly. The guard swallowed. "Away." Her mother did not come to say goodbye. Her father did not speak her name. No one called her princess that day. She was dressed in plain cloth. Her hair was tied roughly. The gold ring that proved her birthright was removed from her finger. When she tried to protest, the words died in her throat. She had learned long ago that no one listened. At the palace gate, wagons waited. Cages stood on iron wheels. Inside them were prisoners, criminals, and captives from border raids. The air smelled of fear and dust. Her heart understood before her mind did. She was being sold. They did not even look back as the gates closed behind her. The journey north was long and cruel, though no hand struck her. The cruelty was quieter than that. It lived in the way guards spoke over her, not to her. In the way food was pushed toward her like charity. In the way the other captives looked at her with confusion. This silent woman who cried like royalty but wore chains like a slave. At night, when the wagon stopped, she listened to the wind and wondered what she had done to deserve being erased. "I must have failed," she whispered once into the dark. "I must have been wrong to exist like this." No one answered. Days later, the land changed. The air grew colder, the trees thinned. Mountains rose like broken teeth against the sky. The guards became nervous. They spoke of borders and rules and warnings. "This is moonbound land," one muttered. "Once we cross, nothing protects us." That night the princess could not sleep. The wind felt alive, brushing her skin like a breath. Somewhere far away, a deep sound rolled across the plains, not thunder, not exactly. It felt like a call. Far to the north, within a fortress carved into black stone, the Alpha King stood alone. He had ruled for centuries, though time marked him differently than men. His kingdom was built on instinct and law, on strength and restraint. His people feared and respected him in equal measure. He had never taken a mate. The curse of his bloodline demanded one, but he had resisted it. A mate meant surrender. It meant binding his power to another's weakness. It meant loss. He had chosen control instead. Until that moment, the scent reached him like a memory he had never lived. It was wrong, soft, human, warm with sorrow and something ancient beneath it. His body reacted before his mind could command it to stop. His breath caught. His claws pressed into stone. "That is impossible," he said aloud, though no one stood near. Yet the scent grew stronger, carried by the northern wind. It pulled at him with quiet insistence, not like hunger, but like recognition. For the first time in centuries, the Alpha King felt fear. Back in the caravan, the princess lifted her head. The same wind touched her face, and for reasons she could not explain, her chest tightened. Her heart beat faster, not with terror, but with a strange sense of being seen. She pressed her hand against her chest. "Why now?" she whispered. The guards shouted. The wagon slowed. Ahead, the land opened into a vast plain under a rising moon. Tall black towers stood in the distance, half hidden by mist. "This is it," a guard said. "The northern fortress." The captives were pulled from the wagons. Chains rattled. The princess stumbled but did not fall. She refused to give them that. As they approached the gates, something changed. The guards began to shake. The wolves appeared silently, their eyes glowing like silver fire. They did not attack. They did not need to. Every creature bowed its head. The Alpha King stepped forward. He was tall, shadowed, wrapped in power that pressed the air down around him. His eyes locked onto the captives and then stopped. On her. The world narrowed. The princess felt it like a weight and a warmth at the same time. She wanted to look away. She could not. His gaze did not judge her shape or her worth. It did not dismiss her. It searched. Slowly, he walked toward her. Each step felt like fate closing distance that had existed for lifetimes. The guards fell to their knees. "She is part of the cargo," one stammered. "A slave." The Alpha King did not look at him. He stood before her, close enough that she could feel his breath. He did not touch her. He did not claim her. Instead, his voice dropped, almost reverent. "Who are you?" she swallowed. No one had asked her that in years. I don't know anymore," she said truthfully. Something broke in his eyes. The moon rose higher. And deep within the Alpha King, a word he had sworn never to speak surfaced like a curse and a promise intertwined. "Mate." The Alpha King did not speak the forbidden word again. He stood before the chained woman while the night watched in silence. The moonlight touched her face softly, as if it recognized her before anyone else had. She did not bow. She did not beg. She stood still, breathing carefully as though one wrong breath might break her. That unsettled him more than fear ever could. "Remove the chains," he said. The guards froze. "My lord," one whispered, "she is." I said remove them. His voice was calm, but the ground beneath their feet seemed to tighten. The wolves around them lowered their heads, not in threat but in respect. The chains fell to the ground with a dull sound. The princess looked down at her free hands as if she did not trust them. Freedom had always come with pain for her. She waited for the cost, but none came. The Alpha King turned away first. "Bring her inside," he ordered. "She will not be harmed." Not harmed. Those words followed her like a fragile light as she was led into the fortress. The walls were carved from black stone, marked with symbols older than memory. Fire bowls burned with blue flame, giving warmth without smoke. She had expected darkness. Instead, there was quiet. Inside the great hall, she stood alone before the Alpha King. No chains, no cage, still she felt smaller than ever. "You are not cargo," he said, his voice slower now. "And you are not a slave in this land." Her throat tightened. "Then what am I?" she asked. He did not answer. Because the truth frightened him. He dismissed the guards and wolves until only the two of them remained. The silence between them felt heavy, like snow ready to fall. "I will give you a chamber," he said. "Food, warmth, safety." She nodded, unsure if moving would cause him to change his mind. "And in return?" she asked carefully. His eyes flickered. For centuries, everything had a cost. He had learned that well. "There is no bargain," he said. "Not tonight." That confused her more than cruelty ever could. She was led to a chamber high in the fortress, with a window facing the moonlit plains. The bed was simple but clean. A fire burned softly. Fresh clothes were laid out. When the door closed behind her, she stood still for a long time. Then she sat on the floor and cried without sound. Not because she was afraid, but because kindness, when unexpected, hurt worse than punishment. That night the Alpha King did not sleep. He stood on the highest tower, the wind pulling at his cloak, his thoughts loud and restless. The scent still clung to the air, quiet but constant. It did not demand. It waited. That was the most dangerous part. His advisor, an old wolf with silver hair and careful eyes, approached. "You felt it," the advisor said. "Yes. You know what it means." "Yes." "Then why do you resist?" The Alpha King clenched his jaw. "Because the last time our king followed the bond, the kingdom nearly burned," he said. "Because mates can be used, because love weakens judgment." The advisor watched him closely. "Or because you are afraid she will see you clearly," he said. The Alpha King said nothing. Days passed. The princess remained in the fortress, watched but never trapped. Servants treated her with careful respect, unsure how to speak to her. Some bowed. Some avoided her eyes. She noticed everything. She noticed how wolves moved aside for her without knowing why. She noticed how doors opened faster, how food was served warmer. She noticed how the Alpha King never came too close, but never fully stayed away. When they spoke, it was brief. "How are you settling?" he asked one morning. "Well enough," she answered. He nodded and left. Each meeting left both of them unsettled. At night, she walked the corridors when she could not sleep. She felt drawn to the stone walls, to the way the fortress seemed to breathe. For the first time in her life, she was not invisible. That terrified her. She found herself thinking of the Alpha King often, of his restraint, of the sadness behind his control. She did not understand it, but she felt it. One evening, she stood on a balcony overlooking the training grounds. Wolves sparred below, their movements powerful but disciplined. "You watch like a queen," a voice said behind her. She turned quickly. The Alpha King stood there, arms crossed, eyes thoughtful. "I am not a queen," she said. "No," he replied, "but you could be." The words fell between them like fragile glass. She shook her head. "I was sold," she said quietly. "My own family gave me away. Whatever I was before, it no longer matters." His gaze sharpened. "It matters," he said. "To this land, blood remembers." She laughed softly without humor. "My blood was never enough." He stepped closer, not touching, but near enough that she felt the warmth of him. "You survived," he said. "That alone makes it strong." Her breath caught. No one had ever said that to her. She turned away before he could see her eyes fill. That same night, trouble came. A scout arrived with grim news. Riders from the south had crossed into the borderlands. Human banners, royal colors. They were searching. The Alpha King felt the shift immediately. The bond stirred, sharp and protective. He crushed it down. "They cannot take her," the advisor said. "They sold her," the Alpha King replied coldly. "They have no claim." "Blood claims are dangerous," the advisor warned, "especially when they fear what they lost." The Alpha King knew this truth too well. He summoned the princess to the throne hall. She arrived slowly, sensing the tension before anyone spoke. "Your family has sent riders," he told her. "They want you returned." Her heart dropped. "Returned?" she whispered. "Why?" "Fear," he answered, "and regret." She shook her head. "They will only hurt me again." "I will not allow it," he said firmly. She looked up at him then, truly looked, and saw the struggle in his eyes. "Why?" she asked. "Why protect me?" The hall was silent. "Because you are mine," the bond screamed. "Instead," he said, "because no one should be traded like an object." She studied him, searching for lies. She found none. That night she dreamed of chains breaking and crowns falling, of wolves bowing to a woman who still doubted her own worth. When she woke, the fortress felt different. The air was heavy. The Alpha King stood in the courtyard, staring south. He knew war would come. And he knew that when it did, he would have to choose between the crown he had protected for centuries and the woman who had awakened it. High above them, the moon burned brighter than before. And somewhere deep within the fortress, an ancient seal stirred. waiting for a queen who had not yet chosen herself. The riders from the south did not arrive with fire or swords. They arrived with smiles. Their banners showed the same golden crown that once flew above the Valley Kingdom. Polished armor shone in the sunlight. Their leader spoke politely, as if he were visiting old friends instead of stepping into forbidden land. The Alpha King watched from the fortress walls, his face calm, his thoughts sharp. "They come with words," the advisor said. "That makes them more dangerous." Below, the princess stood near the inner gate. She could feel them before she saw them. A deep ache settled in her chest, old and familiar. The past had followed her north. The leader bowed low. "We seek the return of a lost royal," he said. "A princess taken by mistake." Taken. The word tasted bitter. "She was not taken," the Alpha King replied. "She was sold." The smile faltered. "She belongs to the Valley Crown," the leader insisted. "Her blood is ours." The princess stepped forward. "No," she said quietly, "my blood is mine." The words surprised even her. The air shifted. The wolves along the walls stilled, their eyes turning toward her. The leader looked at her with surprise and then with calculation. "Your family regrets their choice," he said smoothly. "Come home. You will be treated better now." She almost laughed. "Too late," she answered. The Alpha King glanced at her, something unreadable in his eyes. "You are not welcome here," he told the riders. "Leave." The smiles vanished. "We will return," the leader warned. "With proof, with law." The gates closed. War had not yet begun, but it had been promised. That night the truth was revealed. Deep beneath the fortress lay the moon chamber, a place sealed for centuries. The Alpha King had avoided it all his life. Now the stone doors opened at his command. The princess followed him down winding steps, her heart pounding. The air grew warm, humming with unseen power. "What is this place?" she asked. "A memory," he said, "and a warning." At the center of the chamber stood a stone circle carved with symbols that glowed faintly under moonlight that came from nowhere. "This is where the first Alpha King made a vow," he said, "to protect both wolf and human lands, to rule with balance." "And the curse?" she asked. He hesitated. "When that balance was broken," he said slowly, "the bond twisted. The mate became a chain. Kings began to rule through fear." She looked at the symbols, understanding rising like dawn. "And you never chose a mate," she said, "because you did not want to repeat that." "Yes." The symbols flared brighter as she stepped closer. "There is more," the advisor said from the shadows. "The curse waits for a queen who knows pain yet refuses to pass it on." The princess felt the words settle into her bones. "You mean me," she whispered. "No," the Alpha King said quickly. "I will not place that burden on you." She turned to him, steady. "I have carried heavier," she said. The chamber responded. Light rose around her, soft but powerful. The Alpha King fell to one knee without meaning to. The curse had recognized her. Change did not come all at once. The princess did not suddenly feel brave or strong. Doubt still whispered. Fear still lived in her chest. But something else joined them now, a quiet certainty. She was not broken. She trained with the healers, learning the old ways of care. She listened to the wolves, understanding their law was not cruelty but order shaped by survival. She spoke to servants and guards alike, seeing how her presence calmed unrest. The people began to bow to her. She asked them not to. The Alpha King watched her change with a mix of awe and sorrow. Each step she took toward her own strength brought her closer to a crown he feared to offer. One evening she found him alone in the courtyard. "You keep distance," she said. He did not deny it. "If I claim you," he said, "your enemies become mine." "They already are," she replied. "If I fail you," he continued, "history will repeat." She stepped closer. "If you never try," she said softly, "it already has." The bond stirred, not demanding but waiting. The Southern army arrived at dawn. This time they brought soldiers. The Valley Kingdom had decided force would succeed where shame had failed. The fortress prepared for siege. Wolves lined the walls. Fires burned through the night. The princess stood beside the Alpha King, her hands steady. "Stay inside," he told her. "No," she said, "I will not hide again." He looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. The battle was fierce but controlled. The wolves defended without rage. The Alpha King fought like a storm held on a leash. The southern soldiers hesitated when they saw her standing beside him, not chained, not fearful. She raised her voice, clear and strong. "I was sold," she said. "I was erased, but I survived." Her words carried across the field. "You will not own me again," the valley soldiers faltered. Their leader stared at her in disbelief. "You were nothing," he shouted. She met his gaze. "I was always enough." The ground trembled. The ancient seal beneath the fortress cracked, not in destruction but release. The curse screamed and then fell silent. When the battle ended, the southern army retreated, not defeated by force alone but by truth. The Alpha King turned to her, breathing hard. "It is done," he said. "No," she replied. "It is beginning." That night the moon shone brighter than it ever had. The wolves howled, not in war but in welcome. The Alpha King knelt before her, not as ruler but as equal. "I will not claim you without your choice," he said. She looked down at him, heart full and afraid. "For the first time," she said, "I choose myself." The bond settled, quiet, patient, waiting. High above them the moon marked her, not as a prisoner, not as a pawn, but as a queen still deciding her fate. The morning came slowly over the northern fortress. Mist clung to the walls like a veil, softening the harsh black stone. The princess stood on the balcony, watching the plains stretch endlessly beneath the pale sunlight. For the first time in her life, she felt neither fear nor shame. She was still small in the world's eyes, still human, but inside she had begun to grow like a tree rooted in stormy soil. She had survived being sold, survived the long journey, survived doubt and sorrow. And now, standing beside the Alpha King, she realized she could survive anything else the world sent. The Alpha King entered silently, his boots echoing softly on the stone floor. He paused behind her, watching the horizon. "The Southern Army will not return," he said. His voice carried both relief and warning. "For now they know you cannot be taken." She did not turn. "And if they try again, then we will be ready," he replied. His hand brushed against the balcony railing near hers, a careful distance, a gesture both gentle and commanding. She smiled faintly. "I used to think power belonged to those who could take it. Now I know it belongs to those who survive it." He looked at her, really looked, as if seeing her for the first time. There was awe in his gaze, but also vulnerability, something few ever glimpsed. "You are stronger than any queen I have ever known," he said softly. She turned to face him fully, her chest rising and falling steadily. "I am not a queen yet," she said. "I am still learning who I am, but I will decide my own crown." He nodded. "Then the North waits for your choice." That choice came sooner than anyone expected. A messenger arrived from the Valley Kingdom, trembling and silent. Behind him were her parents and brothers, faces pale with fear and regret. They had expected to see her weak and broken, begging for mercy. Instead, they saw a woman standing in the fortress courtyard, unchained and tall, her presence commanding the air itself. Her mother stepped forward, voice shaking. "Child, we have been wrong." The princess' gaze did not waver. "You sold me. You erased me. You traded my life as if it were a piece of gold. I am alive not because of you, but despite you." Her father bowed his head, shame deep in his bones. "We were desperate. We made a terrible choice." "You made a choice," she corrected, "and I lived it." She looked at each of them, not with hatred but with something sharper, truth. "Do not expect forgiveness. You will live with what you have done." The southern soldiers who had fled returned quietly and witnessed the scene. None dared challenge her, for in that moment she carried a power stronger than armies. She did not raise her hand, she did not speak loud words, but her presence alone held authority. The Alpha King stepped forward, placing himself beside her. "She is no longer yours to command," he said. His voice was calm, but the weight behind it crushed any challenge before it could rise. The princess felt a strange warmth at his side. Not comfort alone, but solidarity. Not protection alone, but equality. The bond between them, quiet and patient, began to settle fully that night. In the moon chamber, where light once glimmered from ancient seals, the Alpha King knelt before her. He did not bow in submission, but in respect. He had ruled for centuries, commanding armies and loyalty alike, yet here he was choosing to wait for her. "I will not claim you as my mate," he said. "Not without your choice, not without your will." She knelt slowly opposite him. "Then we are equals," she said. "Not master and servant, not king and pawn, two souls who decide together." He reached out his hand, and for the first time she took it willingly. The warmth between them was quiet but immense. No words could describe it, no gesture could exaggerate it. It was recognition, trust, and acceptance all at once. A wind rose from the plains outside, carrying the scent that had drawn him north. This time it was not binding, not demanding. It was free, like them. "Then let it be," she whispered. The fortress celebrated in quiet dignity. Wolves circled the walls, not in threat but in homage. Servants and soldiers bowed, not to fear, but to respect. The princess walked through the halls with her head held high, feeling the power of choice in every step. Her people watched her, the same way the Alpha King had first looked at her, fully, without dismissal. They had seen her pain, her resilience, her strength, and they understood that a queen was not someone born into title alone, but someone who claimed herself. That evening the Alpha King led her to the top of the tallest tower. From there she could see the northern land stretching endlessly, mountains and forests kissed by moonlight, rivers reflecting silver. "Do you see it?" he asked. She nodded. "All of it. And I know I can protect it." "No," he said. "You will not just protect it. You will rule it, not because of fear, not because of birth, but because of choice. Because you survived. Because you remembered who you were." Her heart swelled, not with pride alone, but with understanding. Power was not given. It was endured. It was earned. "I choose this," she said. "I choose to be myself no matter the cost." He smiled faintly. A smile full of relief, of awe, of longing restrained. "Then I choose you, not as a king commands a mate, but as a soul acknowledges another." The bond between them shimmered, subtle yet profound. It was not possession. It was partnership. It was recognition. The next morning, the fortress held a ceremony unlike any seen before. Not a coronation in the usual sense, but a celebration of transformation. The princess wore simple garments, not for vanity, but for dignity. The Alpha King stood beside her, silent and commanding, yet gentle. Servants, soldiers, and even wolves were present. The southern envoys were kept outside the gates, witnesses to what power truly meant: choice, courage, and truth. The princess raised her hand, addressing those gathered. "I was once silenced. I was sold. I was taught to believe that my body and my heart were unworthy. But I am here because I survived, because I remembered who I am, and because I chose myself." The hall fell silent. "You have all watched me endure," she continued. "Now I ask you to follow me, not because I am a princess, not because I am a queen, but because we stand together in a land that honors truth." Her voice rang out across the stone walls. Wolves howled in agreement. The fires burned brighter. The ancient seals beneath the fortress glowed faintly, acknowledging her claim. The Alpha King extended his hand and she took it. Together they walked forward, not as master and subject, not as ruler and pawn, but as equals, as partners, as souls bound by trust, respect, and choice. That night the moon rose high, full and luminous. The princess stood on the balcony again, the Alpha King beside her. "Do you regret your journey?" he asked quietly. "No," she said. "Not even the pain. It led me here. It made me stronger. It made me see who I am." He looked at her with something like awe. "Then you are truly a queen," she smiled faintly. "Not yet," she said. "I am a queen in training, and I will not forget it." The wind lifted her hair. The wolves below howled. The northern land stretched endlessly before them. For the first time, neither fear nor shame held her. Only choice, only freedom, only the quiet, steady power of being herself. The Alpha King placed a hand over hers, silent but full of promise. The bond that had begun with scent and instinct had grown into trust and partnership. And together, they looked toward the horizon, knowing that every challenge ahead would be faced side by side, not as king and subject, not as master and slave, but as equals chosen by each other and by themselves. The fortress hummed with quiet energy, the land itself acknowledging a new era. And somewhere in the distance, the shadows of the past whispered, but their power no longer bound her. She had survived, she had endured, and she had chosen herself. And that was enough.